Okay, this one's going to be Okay, this one's going to be important. This is a short and sweet topic, but I wanted to give it its own video. That way you can reference this whenever you need to. We're going to take a look at the clip attributes dialog in the edit panel. When I was starting out, I had a number of projects produce errors that I didn't understand, and the key to finding out what was wrong lay in the clip attributes. This is not totally dissimilar to the interpret footage settings in Premiere Pro. Here we have a number of ways we can tell Resolve to interpret our footage if we are facing problems. So in order to get to this menu, I'm just going to right click on a clip that I have selected and choose Clip Attributes. And that will expose the Clip Attributes window. First we have the frame rate, which is fairly basic. We can set the frame rate of individual clips if we're working with mixed frame rate material. Next, we have data levels, and this is the important one, and we need to keep this in mind for later. Setting your data levels incorrectly either during import or export can produce either a washed out image or an image where the contrast is too high and has gone crazy. We will cover this in detail when we talk about final delivery later in the course, but if you find yourself needing to change video or data levels during your edit or during your project, you do so with these controls here. Next, we have pixel aspect ratio. On a small number of projects, I've had this cause issues, usually when a client doesn't know they're using a non-square pixel aspect ratio. You'll know this is causing issues because your image will be weirdly distorted and the proportions of everything will look wrong. If that's the case, then you can set this setting in the master project setting. Remember, that is the gear down here. And we can choose our pixel aspect ratio in here, and that will hit every single clip. But in the few rogue cases where you might just have one or two clips from a different camera, you can change them individually by selecting the clip, going to this attributes menu and changing it on this drop down. We also have image horizontal and vertical flip, fairly self-explanatory. Orientation is rotation, and input sizing preset. We don't really need to worry about this one. Next, we have field dominance and deinterlace, and this is for when we're working with interlaced footage. Now, I almost always work with progressive. It's what my clients shoot, and it's what they deliver to me. But there are times, especially for either broadcast work or if we're working with a lot of archive footage, when you're going to be using interlaced footage, and these settings can help clear up any issues you're having. We also have our alpha settings here. Resolve used to be a little finicky about using alpha mats, and we used to have to set up separate files containing alpha channels. Now we can input footage with RGB and alpha channels and use this dialog to interpret the alpha correctly. Finally, on this tab of the attributes window, we have superscaling, and this is a seriously impressive feature. It allows us to algorithmically upscale footage to a higher resolution. We set up our upscale using the first drop-down window, so 2 times, 3 times or 4 times current resolution, and then we set our sharpness and noise reduction in the next two, and we mix and match until we are happy. Now, this can be extremely taxing on your machine, and you use it if you have a reason to use it. Mainly if we're working with archive footage that was shot in SD or HD and we need to bring it up to a modern resolution. That's the main use case for this. Or if we're using a B camera that can't shoot 4K, for example, maybe we've got, I don't know, an old GoPro that can't shoot 4K or something along those lines. We would use superscaling for that. But it's going to take a great big toll on your graphics card, so if you're not using a really good desktop, I would steer well clear of this one. Now there's one more thing to look at here that's going to have a direct impact on our grading workflow, and that is timecode. So I'm going to choose the timecode tab at the top of this window. This can be a knotty one because there's a minor issue that crops up on almost every project. Resolve timelines start at a timecode of 1 hour, and a lot of people don't respect this when they export, and their exported files contain what we call a 0 start timecode, when the first frame starts on 0 and not on 1 hour. This causes issues with one of the first steps of establishing a project within Resolve if left unnoticed. Now, I don't advise that you go into your project settings and set the timecode to start at 0. Starting at 1 hour is standard practice, and we will go over the reason for that when we discuss delivery to broadcast much later in this course. We'll come back to this and fix it when we go over the Conform in the next module. For now, I just want you to know that this option is right here. So this has been a good overview of the clip attributes window. We're ready to go on into the Conform now. So click on through to the next lecture,